Okay, we're on page 210, those strawberry shakes. So find page 210 in your book. All right. The human cravings for flavor has always been an important force in history. For thousands of years, royal empires have been built, unexplored lands have been crossed, great religions have been forever changed by the spice trade. In 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail for India to find seasoning. Instead, he discovered America. Today, the influence of flavor in the world marketplace is no less remarkable. The rise and fall of corporate empires, of soft drink companies, snack food companies, and fast food chains is often determined by the way their product tastes. The flavor industry emerged in the mid-19th century when processed foods began to be manufactured on a large scale. Food companies needed flavor additives to replace the aromas lost during processing. So remember, smell and taste go together. Okay, so if you lose the aroma, then you're losing the flavor. They soon turned to perfume companies, which had years of experience working with essential oils and creating memorable smells. The great perfume houses of England, France, and the Netherlands produced many of the first flavor additives. In the early part of the 20th century, Germany's powerful chemical industry gave it an advantage in the flavor production. Legend has it that a German scientist unexpectedly discovered one of the first artificial flavors, menthol something or other, while mixing chemicals in his laboratory. Suddenly, the lab was filled with the sweet smell of grapes. Menthol anthrolite later became the chief flavor additive in grape Kool-Aid. So if you drink grape Kool-Aid, that's what's added to it to give it that strong grape flavor and smell. After World War II, much of the perfume industry shifted from Europe to the United States, settling in New York City, near the headquarters of the leading fashion designers. The flavor industry came with it, but later moved to New Jersey, where larger factories could be built. At first, man-made flavor additives were used mainly in baked goods, candies, and sodas. And then, during the mid-1950s, sales of processed food began to soar. The invention of fancy equipment that can detect gases at low levels, such as gas chromatographs, increased the number of flavors that could be manufactured. By the mid-1960s, the American flavor industry was churning out compounds to supply the taste of Pop-Tarts, Hamburger Helper, Bacon Bites, Tab, Tang, Filet-O-Fish sandwiches, and literally thousands of other products. Okay, so in other words, all these companies, instead of having being able to make just one flavor, like the flavor of grape, if you think about a Pop-Tart, there's multi-flavors in there. You've got the flavor of the crust, the flavor of that's inside it, the flavor of the icing on top, and now being able to make all those different flavors mixed together, they use that throughout their flavor making process. Today, the industry's latest gadgets, headspace vapor analyzers, and high-tech spectrometers can create a detailed map of foods, flavors, and chemicals. They can detect aromas present in the amounts as low as 1 part per billion. The human nose, however, is more sensitive than any of these machines. A nose can detect aromas present in quantities of a few parts per trillion, an amount equal to about 0.000000003%. Okay, so in other words, we can detect a lot of small parts. Some aromas are more complicated than others. For example, the smell of coffee and the smell of cooked meat are produced by a mixture of gases from as many as 1,000 different chemicals. The quality that people seek most of all in a food, its flavor is usually present in an amount too small to measure in ounces or teaspoons, or any other traditional recipe unit. The chemical that provides the main flavor of bell pepper, for example, can be tasted in amounts as low as 0.02 parts per billion. A single drop of this chemical is enough to make all the water in 5 swimming pools taste like bell pepper. Okay, so a little bit goes a long way. On the label of a processed food, the list of ingredients describe what's in the food. At the top of the list are the ingredients used in the largest amounts, and at the bottom, those used in the smallest amounts. The flavor additive usually comes last or second to last on the list. As a result, the flavor of a processed food often costs less than its packaging. Soft drinks contain a larger amount of flavor additives than most products. The flavor in a 12-ounce can of Coke costs about half a cent. The U.S. government does not require flavor companies to list the ingredients of their additives. This allows the companies to preserve their secrecy of flavor formulas. It also hides the fact that the flavor additives often contain more ingredients than the foods being given some taste. The phrase artificial strawberry flavor offers little hint of the scientific wizardry that can make a highly processed food taste like a strawberry. For example, if you wanted to make a strawberry milkshake at home, here is all you need: ice cream, strawberries, sugar, and a touch of vanilla. Now, take a look at the ingredients you might find in a fast food strawberry milkshake. Milk fat and non-fat milk, sugar, sweet whey, high fructose corn syrup, gar gum, mono, and something else. Okay, and they keep going on and on. Citric acid, red food coloring, number 40, artificial strawberry flavor. So in other words, there is a lot of things that go into when you buy a food that's already pre-made than when you make something yourself. Okay, and what does that artificial strawberry flavor contain? Just these few yummy chemicals. And there is so many to list. If you look at the page, you should be seeing the list of like maybe 20 different things that have to go together to make the flavor, the strawberry flavor. Although flavor additives are usually made by combining dozens of chemicals, a single one often supplies the strongest aroma. Smell alone, that chemical gives a real sense of food. Ethanol 2 menthol Baltrip, for example, smells just like an apple. Today's highly processed foods are like the blank white canvas before you start painting it. Whatever chemicals you add will give them specific tastes. Adding menthol to whatever, for example, makes something taste like popcorn. Adding ethanol 3 hydro something makes it taste like marshmallow. The possibilities are almost endless. You can make the page of this book taste like chocolate. By adding the right chemicals, processed foods can be made to taste just about anything without changing their appearance or nutritional value. Foods could even be made with the aroma chemicals such as hexanol, the smell of a freshly cut grass. Do you want to eat something that tastes like grass? Or something else that's the smell of body odor. So pretty much every odor that we smell can be remanufactured by the use of chemicals. Artificial flavors were especially popular during the 1960s and 1970s. For the past 20 years, food companies have tried hard to use only natural flavors in their products. These are made entirely from natural sources, from herbs, spices, fruits, vegetables, beef, chicken, yeast, bark, roots, and so on. Consumers prefer to see natural flavors on a label out of belief that they are healthier, but the difference between artificial flavors and natural flavors is much less simpler than it sounds. Both kinds are manufactured at the same factories. The difference between them is based on how the flavor additive has been made than on what it actually contains. Natural flavors and artificial flavors sometimes contain exactly the same chemicals produced through different methods. Okay, so in other words, natural and artificial, okay, are both produced through chemicals. Okay, there's nothing really natural about it. Okay, and it goes on to talk about how you make some of the different chemicals. Okay, but either way, they still just smell like banana. They aren't actually banana itself. Okay, so natural does not mean that they're actually using banana in the process. We're going to take a look at the next section, which is kid testers. The small group of scientists who create most of the flavor in most of the food now consumed in the United States are called flavorists. Their work draws on research from a wide range of subjects: biology, psychology, physiology, organic chemistry. A flavor chemist a flavorist is a chemist with a trained nose and a poetic outlook. Flavors are created by blending many chemicals in tiny amounts. Although the mixtures are based on hard scientific principle, they also reflect a good deal of imagination and creativity. One of the flavorists compares his work to composing music, suggesting that a well-made flavor additive will always have the right notes. The taste of food can be changed enormously by tiny changes in mixing flavor. A little odor goes a long way, another flavorist said. Okay? In order to give a processed food the right taste, a flavorist must always consider the food's mouthfeel, the combination of textures that you notice as you eat it. The mouthfeel can be adjusted throughout the use of different fats, gums, and starches. The chemicals that give food its smell can be studied easily with the right equipment. But mouthfeel is much harder to measure. How do you measure the crispness of a French fry? Okay, so in other words, they're trying to get like the smell to also mimic things like chewiness, slipperiness, smoothness. Okay, not just how it feels in your mouth, but also to have the smell mimic that as well. As marketing to children has become more and more important to processed food companies, the fast food chains, flavorists have increased their efforts to discover what children like. The flavor companies constantly run taste tests for kids. These aren't the kind of taste tests you might get in your grandma's kitchen when she's making brownies and asks you to lick a spoon. At flavor factories, the flavor company offices, children are often placed in small booths separated by plastic dividers. Researchers wearing white lab coats and plastic gloves slip samples of pizza, ice cream, flavored potato chips, and all sorts of other foods through small wooden doors. The kids taste the samples and then tell the researchers which one tastes the best. Some children feel uncomfortable sitting at the little booths. Whenever possible, IFF, remember that's that flavor company, does its testing in a room that feels more like a classroom. During one of those tests at an IFF plant in Union Beach, New Jersey, a dozen kids between 8 and 12 years old recently sat at a table with brand new computers perched on black-white swivel chairs. Some of the kids were so little that their heads could barely be seen above the table. A few rocked nervously from side to side. IFF promised to pay each one of them $10 to taste yogurts, and they talked excitedly about what they would do with the money. The researchers were hidden behind a one-way mirror, able to watch the children without being seen. The kids entered their taster identification number into the computer and then tasted a sample of yogurt. The computer asked them questions about the look of the yogurt, as well as some other questions that Goldilocks might have answered. Is the flavor too strong or too weak or just right? Once the children finished a sample, they drank a sip of water, took a bite of a cracker, and raised a blue card with a number on it to get another sample. Two women scurried around the room carrying small plastic cups filled with bright pink and blue yogurt. The kids had fun answering the questions and eating the yogurt, but they seemed unaware of the nationwide impact this taste test could have. If the answers they punched into their computers might convince IFF to use one set of flavors instead of another. In that room in Union Beach, a dozen local New Jersey kids were helping to decide the taste of yogurt that children might soon be eating all over the United States. During the past 2 decades, the flavor industry's role in food production has become so influential that many children now like man-made flavors more than real ones. Fresh fruits and vegetables often have complicated, unpredictable flavors that combine bitterness with sweet. When flavorists create additives for adult food, they try to imitate nature as close as possible. When flavorists create additives for kids' food, they usually get rid of the bitterness and increase the sweetness. Children's flavors are often twice as sweet as those made for adults. Children's expectation of a strawberry is completely different, says a flavorist at IFF. If they want something that is strong, and that has something they want something that is strong and has something like bubble gum notes. The use of strong, unusual flavors is now one of the most popular trends in kids' food. Doggy Man bubblegum tastes like a hot dog. Bubblicious Twisted Tornado Gum is supposed to taste like whatever a tornado tastes like without the dust. And there's pepperoni pizza flavored potato chips, cotton candy flavored ice cream, pina colada milk drinks. Okay. So in other words, kids like to have their things a little bit different, and they also like it to be a little bit more sweet. So I'm going to stop here. Make sure you take some notes on what we read. Look back in your book.